Hey, what's going on everyone? Hawks21 here, back with another Splinterlands video. So we just got a pretty big update from the team here on Peak D, announcing the new Chaos Legion reward cards. There is a ton of great information in here, and we're going to cover everything in this video on a really high level. I will break down a lot of the individual things in separate videos over the coming days, but for now I just wanted to give this doc a quick run through and talk through some of the initial things that jump out at me. I know some other content creators have done this as well, but hopefully some of our opinions or initial takes are a little bit different from each other. Before I get into that, it would be awesome if you could just take a second, if you are new to this community here on YouTube, to subscribe to the channel. It is free for you to do. No pain off your back. I, really like making videos for you guys, but it does take some time. So, it would be awesome if you could just hit that subscribe button for me one time. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's get into it. So funny enough, I had put out a video that when they posted the screenshot in the Splinterlands Discord channel, I wasn't sure if everyone saw it, so I thought I was going to have some information for people, but then as soon as I posted it, almost like 15 minutes later, this big thing came out. So my big reveal ended up not really being that big of a reveal. But we're going to keep going down. We're going to go through this list. So right here, they just talk about the shift to soulbound reward cards. Again, I'm going to give my overall take on this at some point soon. I promise. I keep saying that, but the new stuff keeps popping up. So we got the date here, Tuesday, January 31st, and it'll be in the normal maintenance window. They'll release them. As soon as the new reward cards are released, they will replace the old reward cards. So this is, the final confirmation of that. This is happening. The season reward chests will still contain the old reward cards. So previously, there's been times where people have tried to save their chests to get sort of new cards or new things in them. This won't necessarily be the case this time, as they're going to have the old reward cards no matter when they're opened. So they want to stop that from happening. So here's a big thing. People can use the potions to increase their chances of getting a better rarity card or a gold foil reward card when opening the chests. It will automatically be enabled. And so basically each time a chest that is determined to have a card in it is opened, the potions will be used and it'll just increase your chances. So if you open up a chest and it has potions in it, you wouldn't have used a potion. It's automatically only going to trigger on a chest that is randomly assigned a card. And we'll see the percentages of these new chests shortly here. I like this. I don't know if I'll make a separate video on this. Let me just talk about this for a little bit. Just giving more utility to these potions. Like right now, I have a ton of them sitting, kind of just waiting to eventually, for whatever reason, I decide to open packs. So having some more use for this, especially given the fact that it's going to take a while to level up these cards, I welcome this change. I think it's a good change. So again, we'll be set up by default. Sorry, my dog barked a little bit there. So let's see. So we knew this. A single loot chest can now contain multiple of the same reward cards. So higher loot chests will not only have higher chances of getting higher rarity and gold foil cards, they will also now have higher chances of getting more copies of each card in each chest. So again, that's an important switch just based on the fact that it's going to take a while for us to level all of these up. So, you're not going to just have to pull 400 of each common card, right? There's going to be times where maybe you get 5, maybe you get 10. I don't know how far it'll go up, but it's not just going to be having to open up a card 400 times. So they show it in the table here, and this is what they say. The charges are only going to be used when opening a loot chest that is randomly determined to contain reward cards. And one charge will be used for chests. So they have nothing to do with the number of cards you get only the rarity and if it's a gold foil. So you could potentially get, here, actually, let's find it right here. The determination of rarity and foil for reward cards received from loot chests will happen before the quantity of the chest is determined. This means that in higher chest tiers, a single legendary or alchemy potion charge may lead to multiple of the same epic, legendary, and or gold foil charge in a chest. So basically it's going to spin once when it's a card chest, it's going to spin once. Pick the card that it's going to end up being. You know, it's not picking, it's by a % chance. And then the next thing it's going to do is determine the quantity. So it's going to be 2 separate steps. Here's the table that sort of outlines how everything's going to work. So what's interesting here is reward cards are all back to the same across leagues. So I know this was changed for a while, but I think now that they're going with Soulbound, they increase the chances back that you get reward cards in bronze. So these are basically the same across. The only difference is packs have a higher percentage with the higher chests, and they sort of steal that number from the potion. So less likely to get potions in Champion, more likely to get packs. And then here's the tier. As you can see, you know, you're going to want higher tier chests. You can just look here by the legendary, right? You know, legendary epics tier higher and commons tier down as you go up. So we know, and look at these gold foil chances. It's pretty significant. 6% gold foil chance, 5% or 0.5%, sorry, in bronze. And the 20% is key to know across the board because the summoners are going to be rare. So the soulbound cards, the big thing to mention here is we also intend for the cards to be able to become unbound, meaning they'll be able to be transferred, rent, burned, or sold once they stop being available in loot chests by infusing them with DEC. So we don't know exactly what this is going to look like, but the key thing here is these aren't going to be soulbound forever. You know, you're not creating something that's going to have absolutely no value. You can't sell them right away. You can't flip them right away. But one thing you can do is hold on to them. Keep playing the game. Keep leveling them up. And they say here, roughly 1 to 2 years out from this initial release of Soulbound reward cards, we will have a new set of Soulbound reward cards that will be associated with Rebellion. So 1 to 2 years. Again, they plan on this being a long process. I'm going to talk about it specifically when I talk about the Soulbound reward cards. But this isn't something they think people are going to be able to complete in weeks. And that is by design. That is a feature, not a bug. All right, that's the last thing I'll say about that. Let's see. Okay, so here they get into, they don't show us any of the cards, but they do say they'll be available on the QA server for play testing roughly a week ahead of the planned release. So beginning of next week, it looks like, we'll start seeing these cards in the QA server. And I'll obviously be keeping you guys updated on all those things. But they do go over what the set is going to be made up of and the new abilities. So 37 monster cards, 6 summoner cards. So 1 from each element. So we're getting everything except a neutral summoner. So Lux Vega continues to only be the neutral summoner. You know, there was some conversation about that, if they're already going to remove that title away from Lux Vega, but no, they are not. And I don't know if they say this later, but, oh, they do actually, so I'll bite my tongue. 12 legendary cards, 2 from each basic element, 1 dragon, 1 neutral. 7 epic cards, 1 from each element. 12 rares, 2 from every basic element, 1 dragon, 1 neutral. 12 commons, 2, so there's going to be no dragon. So 2 from every basic, 2 neutral. So pretty well spread out. Let's get into the new abilities. Conscript. So this is the ability we've talked about. It's going to be on all of the summoners. When a summoner with the conscript ability is chosen, it will allow the player to use 1 more gladiator card in the battle than normal. So this is a very important distinction here. 1 more than normal. So in ranked battle, right, you can play 0. So playing conscript means you can play 1. But in guild brawls, if you use a summoner with conscript, you can play 2. Because normally you'd be able to play 1 in a brawl. Now you're going to be able to play 2. So that's very interesting. They also plan to add a conscript rule set in the future, which will allow both players to play an additional gladiator card in a battle. So that means in a guild brawl at the time, with the conscript summoner, with the conscript rule set, you could play 3 of them. And then in regular ranked battles, you could potentially get up to 2. So the Gladius cards are becoming a big part of this game. And if you're not in a guild, now, well, yesterday was the best time to join a guild. Today would be the next best day. And so the cost of they're going to be 6 mana rares. So they're not going to be cheap. And I talked about in the video today, it includes 1 lower level stat buff or debuff along with conscript. So they are going to be expensive compared to other rares. Obviously in like really high mana matches that won't matter much. But it's not like you can really squeeze these things necessarily into, 18 mana cap games. There'll be decisions to be made. Let's see. So then we get into another ability, Martyr. So this one's cool. It's almost like a version of Bloodlust. So when a character with the Martyr ability dies in battle, it gives adjacent characters +1 to all stats. This ability will put increased importance on positioning of characters on the battlefield, as its full effect will not be captured if it's in the first or last position when it dies. So basically what I'm thinking here is you're going to want to put a card like this out in the middle back of your lineup and have it be the lowest health monster. And if they bring an opportunity monster, right, then this card's going to get targeted. It'll die, and then the 2 cards next to it will get boosts, as if it's Bloodlust. So that's pretty cool. This is going to be a fun ability. It takes a lot of strategy. I think it's something that's going to be hard for bots to program in. I think that's another cool thing about this ability. It requires a lot of like advanced planning and tactics that goes beyond sort of what we've seen thus far. So I'm really excited about this kind of ability. It's like a step 2 ability. You really need to think to utilize this ability well. Another idea, right? You put this in the last position and have Dr. Blight or another camouflage monster in the 6th position. So you put this in the 5th position when you're expecting sneak or in a super sneak rule set, and then you're going to give a boost to Dr. Blight or whatever the camo monster is behind it. So there's going to be some cool ways you can play with this based on the rule set. So again, very similar to the Bloodlust, +1 to all stats. So here was huge news, and I'm going to make a separate video. The Bloodlust ability will be removed when hit by a character with Dispel. So Dispel can now get rid of Bloodlust. Bloodlust can also get rid of the Martyr ability boosts as well. Not Bloodlust, sorry. Dispel can get rid of the Bloodlust ability as well. Or the Martyr ability as well. So Dispel gets a boost. Bloodlust gets a bit of a nerf. Also, the Bloodlust effect will always give +1 speed, even in reverse speed rule sets. So this is something that we'll have to take into account when using a Bloodlust character in that rule set. So I think they were seeing that Bloodlust was a little OP, and so they decided to nerf it. This will be a separate video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Just want to let you know what's happening. So weapons training. I think this is the last thing we'll talk about probably. Another ability that makes you think. The weapons training ability also affects adjacent characters and therefore is also heavily dependent on positioning. A character with weapon training's ability will train any adjacent characters with no attack, thereby giving them an attack of the same type as the character with the weapons training ability. The amount of attack that the weapons training ability gives to adjacent non-attack characters is still to be determined. So basically they want to play with this ability, they want to test it and see what that number should be, right? It's a lot to think about because you probably don't want to give it 1, right? If you give it 1 attack, then it's very likely, especially at the high levels, that that attack is going to do nothing, right? Because there's probably a void, someone probably has the shield ability. It's almost really not worth it as an ability, but you don't want to make it too OP. So it'll be an interesting thing to see how they balance it. I assume they'll do something by rarity. So, a character with a ranged attack in weapons training will grant a ranged attack to the characters adjacent to it that have no attack themselves. So if 2 characters with the weapons training ability and different attack types are on either side of a character with no attack, then that character will gain both attacks. So think about this, and you think about how powerful the double attack cards can be in, you know, an opportunity rule set or something like that. You could set up a card now, like think about Bakjira or something. You could set up a 2 attack card now, which is kind of crazy. If the characters with weapon trainings on either side of the character have no attack, have the same attack type, then that character will gain the higher of the 2. So you don't get that extra boost if they both have the attack type. So same attack type. So it'd be in your favor to bring, you know, 1 magic, 1 ranged, etc. If a character with weapon trainings dies, and the adjacent characters with no attack will lose the effect. That's good to know. And then as it moves around, if weapon trainings becomes adjacent to a character with no attack at any point, like even if it doesn't start there, then it will be applied at that time. So they will be affected by other effects that modify attacks, such as Inspire, Headwinds, and Summoner effects. So if you bring an Inspire and you give someone a melee, you know, it'll get that boost. But they are still considered as having no attack when it comes to Oppress. So they can still get the double damaged sort of Oppress to them. I think there was, let's just finish this off. So there's going to be 6 cards with the new weapon trainings ability, 1 legendary rarity from each element, so not neutral. So one of these cards, one of these legendaries, for each of the splinters is going to have weapons training. So I wonder if the dragon one, that means, is going to have legendary. Yeah, it must. So the dragon one's going to have weapons training. So each element's going to get one. So the one time, and not including neutral, so the one time you could do it where you combine 2 is going to be dragon, and then using that with another splinter. 2 will have melee attack, 2 will have range attack, 2 will have magic attack. The melee attack one will be interesting, right? Because what I'm basically thinking is it's going to be hard to play well outside of melee can attack from anywhere, opportunity, or super sneak, right? Because you can put it in the second position and give, like, let's say Bakjira an attack in the front. But then the weapons training monster can't attack from the second position if it has a melee attack, unless it also has reach or something. That will remain to be seen. But then even if you put it in the second position and you want to like double up, so let's say you put Mordali Guardian in the third position, that's going to get a melee attack. And unless it's a special rule set, that won't be able to attack either. So I think the ranged attack and the magic attack are going to be the 2 sort of crazy good ones. Let's see. So these 7 epic rarity cards will have no attacks. So it's going to be perfect. They're going to give us cards right out of the gate. They're going to work well with weapons training. See, so they wanted to work on 2 abilities in particular that have been underpowered. The abilities Oppress and Dispel, which we talked about. They're going to be featured heavily in the new Soulbound reward cards. That's really good to know. Yeah, so talking about Oppress here, Dispel. So let's talk about these abilities here. I might get into that in a separate video. Well, yeah, I don't want this to be too long. Huge drop from the Splinterlands team. I'm very, very excited for these cards. Expect more content on them in the near future. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something new, it would be awesome if you could take a second to like and subscribe. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.